We've discussed before the globalist plan to reset society post-COVID. We've covered the concept presented by World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab of resetting the entire global economy in order to better battle so-called climate change. The entire scheme will move the world away from capitalism, the economic system that has lifted many millions out of poverty and allowed many to accomplish the American dream, to socialism, the system that leads directly to communism that has a long track record of killing hundreds of millions. This week, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is calling for a vote on Thursday on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure spending bill. As the New American reported, if passed, this bill could pave the way for a much larger spending bill. And each of these bills have very radical provisions. Combined, these bills construct a Trojan horse for Marxism, ushering in a large portion of the Great Reset. We'll look into these bills in today's Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective and the plan to save American liberty and independence. And if you don't get any further into the video than here, please be sure to click on the link in the description to tell Congress to vote no. Scheduled for Thursday, the smaller bill is H.R. 3684. It's called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and it's slated to cost about $1.2 trillion. Unfortunately, the Senate has already voted on its version of this, and it has largely passed with 19 Republican senators crossing the political aisle. When looking at the voting records of these GOP senators, it's no surprise to see them voting for such a big government monstrosity. The New American rates these senators with a Freedom Index score, which indicates the percentage of how often they vote according to the Constitution. Their scores are abysmal. As you can see, none of them are above 69, and most of them are pretty much below 50%. In regards to these infrastructure bills, the New American reports that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce had heavily lobbied the GOP for support. The New American also highlighted various radical provisions of the first bill, including mandates that states create carbon reduction programs with the federal government choosing which plans to accept or reject. Creates a pilot program for a mileage tax, which tracks how many miles individuals drive, something that would infringe on Americans' privacy, penalize drivers in low-density areas, and make driving too costly for some Americans. Requires car companies to equip all vehicles with advanced alcohol monitoring systems. Allows the federal government to bypass Buy American rules, promoting outsourcing to countries such as Communist China. Enables mass migration by funding border crossings and migrant welcome centers while including $0 for border wall construction. Defines gender identity as a protected class. Enacts racial quotas for broadband spending. Rewards states that support and facilitate illegal migration to the United States, also for broadband spending. Ends Amtrak's policies/goals of creating a profit and seeking to minimize costs. Includes multiple radical climate change provisions, including over $50 billion to protect against climate change and $21 billion for environmental remediation. Additionally, H.R. 3684 will modernize the power grid to accommodate green energy and, among other provisions, the bipartisan bill includes $39 billion for public transportation, $15 billion altogether for electric transportation, $65 billion for broadband, and a $30 billion cryptocurrency tax. If the House passes this version, it goes to Biden's desk for his signature. If it passes its own version, then the Senate will have to adjust its version and vote on the changes. However, there's no guarantee that it'll pass the House because many of the hard leftists are not happy that the bill doesn't go far enough. Now keep in mind, best estimates show that only 9% of the bill actually goes towards infrastructure. Now this bill is bad enough, but the second one is way worse, with a total expense of somewhere in the range of $3.5 to $5.5 trillion. And this one is much scarier and unfortunately has a better chance at passing because Democrats may just use the reconciliation process that bypasses the filibuster and only needs a simple majority. And due to the tie in the Senate, VP Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, would cast the tie-breaking vote if it did indeed make it to the Senate. As the New American reports, although not yet having a bill number, Democrats have dubbed it the Build Back Better Act, an obvious reference to a globalist United Nations program. Democrats are seeking to cram as many of their far-left policy goals as possible into the $3.5 trillion bill. These goals include, by 2030, mandate a 50% reduction in carbon emissions along with 80% clean energy, multiple other climate change provisions including tax incentives, a civilian climate corps that employs up to 1.5 million people, weatherizing and electrifying buildings, and other measures to rig the U.S. economy in favor of green energy. A carbon tariff that will essentially sanction countries that don't conform to the green agenda, a major expansion of Medicare, possibly including lowering the eligibility age, along with Medicaid, paid family and medical leave, among expanding other social programs, universal pre-K, which is part of the left's plan to subvert the family, free community college, the blatantly unconstitutional and globalist PRO Act, which is a partisan giveaway to labor unions that will further integrate the U.S. into trade agreements like the USMCA, a significant funding increase for the IRS to enable it to take even more of Americans' incomes than it already does, potentially a national plastic tax and a debt ceiling increase, increases taxes on Americans making over $50,000 a year, and raises the corporate tax to a level higher than Communist China's, enacts portions of the PRO Act, which would entrench the power of labor unions over businesses and workers, and potentially gives amnesty to 6.7 million illegal aliens. In a small victory for conservatives, the Senate parliamentarian struck down a proposal to add an even broader mass amnesty to the bill, but Democrats still want to attach other immigration-related provisions to the bill. Let's not be fooled as to the type of bill this really is. We've discussed previously that this is the climate change bill. This is the best opportunity the radical leftists will have to push through the Green New Deal. So contact Congress today to tell them to vote against such unconstitutional measures, to do whatever they can to slow the process, stall, shut the government down, whatever. Warnings of a recession due to the federal government hitting its debt ceiling will not come to pass. But government passing these bills will cause a seismic shift away from Americanism and toward globalism, tearing down the founding concept of limited government and installing unlimited government controlling nearly every aspect of your life. It's time to take action. The link to an action alert is in the video description. You can use it for free to send a pre-written but entirely customizable email to your congressman. Once you've sent it, you can use the email wording as a script for a telephone call. The platform we use also allows you to call right after sending the email. Phone calls generate more pressure than emails, so call their Washington, D.C. office and then be sure to also call their home district offices. Let's generate some needed pressure to help stop these disastrous bills. The John Birch Society has fought against this radical leftist and globalist agenda since 1958. We have the agenda that exposes the problem and the organization that is actively working to implement the educational solution based on the advice of the Founding Fathers. If America is to be great again, it must begin with each of us. We must learn and understand these basic concepts of Americanism and globalism, for without the proper view of the problem, there can be no effective solution. Now you'll find all of this and much more at the John Birch Society, so please join today. Again, all links are in the video description. I'm Bill Hahn for the John Birch Society. Until next time, stay informed, stay active, and be bold, patriots.